Well, we are 6 weeks away from the 2024 election. The country's attention is still on Springfield, Ohio, and its Haitian immigrant community. The town remaining on alert after weeks of rumors and a potential visit from former President Donald Trump. First at 4, Stephen Hernandez found those concerns are now reaching the Haitian communities here in northeastern Ohio.
Sometimes people speak things and it will hurt.
Bishop Gerard Merble has led the Miracle of Revival Church in Painesville for decades. But the Haitian-born religious leader could have never imagined the type of rumors circulating about his fellow countrymen in Springfield, Ohio.
I would not believe that. Practically, it's very difficult to catch a cat.
What has followed those unsubstantiated rumors against the Haitian immigrant community, especially those about eating people's pets, are threats of violence in Springfield and an increase in security there for schools and government buildings. Pastor Merble says it's a reminder of how powerful and dangerous words can be, sparking fears even felt in Painesville.
Saturday, I had a homegoing service. I was concerned because you never know who could be in the area, what they could be thinking of the Haitians, things like that.
He hopes his platform can remind Ohioans that Haitians are everywhere and do all sorts of good.
There were some even working for NASA. Many are here as doctors, many are here as, teachers.
Last week, former President Donald Trump said he planned to visit the city of Springfield himself. So far, it hasn't been clear if that trip will happen or when. But Bishop Merble says the most important voice is that of voters.
Don't forget to go vote and vote for the person that you think will help the country the most.
Pastor Merble believes the eyes of the nation will continue to be on the Haitian community in Springfield through November. But he sees this as an opportunity for them to share their kindness.
Continue to love, no hate, no violence, and that's the way it will be.
In Painesville, Stephen Hernandez, 19 News.